Dear students, today I will teach you morphological analysis. Morphological analysis is the part of the natural language processing. As we know that natural language processing contains six phases. First phase is a phonological analysis, which I have covered in the previous lecture. And second phase is the morphological analysis, which come under lexical analysis also. Next phase is the syntactic analysis, then semantic analysis, then pragmatic analysis, then discourse integration. We will cover these phases in next classes. So, as we know that morphological analysis is based on the lexical analysis. Lexical analysis contains the tokens and give this token to the next phase, which is called syntactic analysis. So, which kind of precautionaries, which kind of things we have to maintain during lexical analysis phases, which is also called morphology or morphological analysis. So when we talk about the morphology, morphology is the study of the way words are morphological is the study of the way words are built from smaller meaningful unit called morphemes. So morpheme is the smallest units of the words. So we can divide morphemes into two broad classes. First one is called the stems and second one is called the affixes. Stems is the core meaningful units, the root of the word. You can say it is the root of the word. For example, if you have eats, if you have word eats, then eat is the verb here and s is the affix of it. And affix is the add additional meaning and grammatical function to words. Affixes are further divided into prefix, suffix, infixes, and circumfixes. So prefixes are precede the stems. It means prefix, prefixes are the precede the stems. Stems mean main words. It may be like do, undo. Suffixes follow the stems. It may be like you can uh, you can suffix s with eat, then it become a eats. And infix you have to insert inside the stems. It means you can insert this um, word or letter in the mid of the stem. And circumfixes precede and follow the stems. It come in both sides. So English doesn't stack more affixes. It means English doesn't contain more affixes, but Turkish can have word with a lot of suffixes. When we talk about the Hindi, English, Turkish, Japanese, there are several languages which are called natural languages. So we have to process these languages and we have to know about these languages. So as we know more about these languages, so we can process appropriately for the natural language processing. Languages such as Turkish tend to string affixes together are called agglutinative languages. So when we talk about the morphological analysis, the analyzing word into their linguistic components, morphemes. Morphology concerns the structure of word. Words are assumed to be made of morphemes, which are minimal information carrying unit. For example, morphemes are the smallest meaningful unit of the language. Cars, car contains two words, car plus plurals. Cars is the plurals of cars, so this is the normal form and this is the morphological form, car plus plurals, giving your affixes ing here. So this word contains two things, give plus progressive. And jelly ordum is the word which came from Turkish. So its meaning is I was coming in English. And it contains four things, gel plus progressive plus past tense and singular, first person singular. Ambiguity, actually ambiguity also arise, as I have already told you in the previous class, ambiguity also arises in lexical analysis. It means one word having more than one meaning. One word can be used as a verb or same word can be used as a noun. For example, can. Can be used as a noun. It means you have a can to contain something. And can is the auxiliary verb also. Auxiliary or simple normal verb. Fly is a verb, then you can use it, and fly is a noun. When you are using fly as a noun, then you have to add plural because several flies, insect maybe, and these are the nouns. And when you are using verb, then you have to use is a with progressives. So the words are in two forms: surface and lexical forms. So surface level of word represents the actual spelling of the word. For example, Jeliorum eats cats. This is the actual meaning, actual word. Jelliorium is the Turkish word. Eats and cats are English word. The lexical level of word represents a simple concatenation of morphemes making up that word. So when we want to convert it into the lexical level, then you can represent the word Jeliorum like this. The meaning of the Jeliorum is in Turkish is I am coming in English. So it contains word gel. The meaning of gel is come, and this is using ing. Then you can add here prog means progressive, and this is the first singular word. If you want to convert surface level eats to lexical level, then you have to write like this: eat plus ur. It means eat is the surface level form, and for the s and es with third person, you have to add ur. And cat is a noun, and this is in the plural form, so you have to write like this: cat plus plural. Morphological process try to find correspondence between lexical and surface form of words. So this is done by morphological processor. So when you want to convert surface form to lexical form, then this is called morphological recognition. And if you want to convert lexical form to surface form, then this is called morphological generation. There are two forms, or you can say there are two broad classes of morphology, which are called inflectional morphology and derivational morphology. After a combination with an inflectional morpheme, the meaning and class of the actual stem usually do not change. For example, if you are performing inflectional morphemes in, or you can say the inflectional morphology, then you have to add some prefix or suffix. Then the meaning of the word will not change fully. So when you are taking word eat, then its inflectional morphemes will be eats. And if you are taking word pencil, then its inflectional morphemes may be pencils. Gel's inflectional morphology is gelorium. The gel means come, and gelorium means I am coming in English. Masa and masam both are also Turkish word. Masa means in Turkish table, and masam means lots of tables. After a combination with and derivational morphemes, the meaning and the class of actual stem usually change. So you can understand this thing by these words. When you are using er, when you are affixing er with computer, then what? Computer, compute will become computer. The both the meaning of compute and computer are different. The meaning of do and undo are different. You are adding un with do, then become undo, then both words are different because it is come under derivational morphemes. When you are using word friend and its derivational morphemes, after adding word ly become a friendly, then it's have a different meaning. Uyghur, Kepi are the Turkish word. When we talk about the Uyghur means civilized, but Uygurless means civilization. So when you are adding as, las, the meaning will be different. Kepi means in Turkish, Kepi is the Turkish word. The meaning of it in English is door, and Kepkis means doorman. So after adding ICCI, its meaning will become totally different. So the irregular change may happen with derivational affixes. So what are the basic difference between the inflectional versus derivational morphology? Inflectional morphology concerns properties such as tense, aspects, number, persons, gender, and cases, all of which usually produce different form of the same word rather than different words. Thus, leaf and leaves, write and writes, run and ran are not given separate head word in dictionary because you can change according to the need. In the derivational affix such as un, re, anti, etc. have a broader range of semantic possibilities and don't fit into neat paradigms. So dictionary have different meaning with these prefix and suffixes. Derivational category in contrast do form separate word so that leaflet, writer and rerun will figure as separate word in dictionaries. So these are some other example of English inflectional morphology. Noun have simple inflection morphology. Suppose in the form of plural, you can make cat to cats and possessive John and Johns. These are the inflectional morphology. For verbs, verb have slightly more complex inflectional but still relatively simple inflectional morphology. It's when we talk about in word past form, then walked is the past form of walk. Past participle form, then walked also the past participle form of walk. Journed, walking is the journey of walk. Singular third person, walks is the singular third person of walk. Verb can be categorized as main verb, modal verb, can, will, should. These are the modal verbs. Be, have, do are the primary verbs. Regular and irregular verb, walk, walked, go, went. These are the regular and irregular verbs. So in the previous slide, these are the example of inflectional morphology. But this slide contains the example of derivational morphology. When we use derivational morphology, the meaning of the word totally change. Some English derivation affixes are when you are using a suffix ation, then with transport, then it will become transportation and the meaning will totally different. When you are using affix er with kill, then it will become a killer. The meaning is different. When you are using affix ness with fuzzy, then it will become a fuzziness. When you are using affix l with computation, then it will become computational. When you will add able with break, then it will become breakable. Its meaning is different with break. When you are adding less with help, then it will opposite of the word, then it is called helpless. When you using un with do, then it will become opposite of do, that is called undo. When you are using word re with try, then it will become a retry. So this is called derivational morphology. So morphology parsing is required for the recognition of the morphological parser. Morphological parsing is to find the lexical form of a word from its surface form. So by the help of these keywords. So you can convert the word cats, cat is, cats in lexical form like cat plus noun plus PLU, because cat is noun and it is in the plural form. You can use cat, cat is a noun and it is in singular form. Goose, goose is a noun and it is singular form, or you can say that goose is a noun or plus verb. You can use goose in the noun as well as in verb. So if you want to use as a noun, then you can write goose plus noun plus singular, or if you want to use as a verb, then you have to use goose plus verb. Geese is the plural form of goose. So if you are using it as a noun, then you have to use goose plus noun plus plural, and if you want to use goose in this way, gooses as the plural form of goose also. So you can use goose plus uh, verb plus third person singular verb, singular sing, third person singular. And if you want to use goose as a verb, then it's with present indefinite. When you are using it as a with a third person, then you have to add s or yes. So you have to write like this: goose plus verb plus third singular. Catch is a verb, then you have to write catch plus verb, and caught is the third form past participle of this verb. Then you can, or this is also a second form. Then if you are using as a second form, then you can write catch plus verb plus past, or if you are using third form, then you have to write catch plus verb plus participle. Jellyworm is also a word of Turkish language. If you are using it as in English, then its meaning is I am coming, and you can write like this. This is if you are you are using it as a verb, because its meaning is come. I am coming. Then gel plus verb plus progressive, because it's using ing, and it's using ing with first person I. So first person singular form. There can be more than one lexical level representation for a given word. So it has ambiguity. There are two things with lexical analysis, which are stemming versus lemmatization. Stemming usually refers to a crude heuristic process that chops off the end of the word in the hope of achieving this goal correctly most of the time, and often includes the removal of derivational affixes. So if you chop ex with foxes, then the word left fox. If you are chopping ing with the word from the word going, then it will remain go. So this process is called stemming. Stemming, after the process of stemming, we found stem. Stem is the main part of the word. What in case of the lemmatization? Lemmatization convert the stem in its proper form. So lemmatization usually referred to doing things properly with the use of vocabulary and morphological analysis of word, normally aiming to remove inflectional ending only and to return the base or dictionary form of a word, which is known as the lemma. Suppose you have word sang, sung, sung in the second form or third form, then if you are giving it to lemmatization, then it's converted into the proper form sing, because sing is the proper form of sung and sung. And if you are giving me word going, went, goes, then it will convert into the word go. Convert into the word go. For lemmatization, we need part of speech tags. So by the help of part of speech tagging, we can find lemmatization. So this is the another topic which is called corpora. Corpora, it means you can say the corpus. You can also say it corpus. A corpus, corpora is the plural of corpus, is simply a body of text that has been collected for some purpose. A valence corpus contains text which represent different genres, newspaper, fictions, textbooks, parliamentary reports, cooking recipes, recipes, scientific papers, etc. For example, Brown corpus, you can that is called US English, and the Lancaster Oslo Vargan corpus is called British English, which are each about 1 million words. Or more recent British National Corpus (BNC) contain approximately 100 million words and include 20 million words of spoken English. So this is another thing, prediction. Prediction we can also apply it in natural language processing for the prediction of the next word on the basis of the current words. So given a sequence of words, if we want to determine what is the most likely to come next, then this is called the prediction. For example, good. For example, if you are using word good, then after the good you can predict that it may be the good morning, good afternoon, good evening, etc. There are a number of reasons to want to do this. The most important is as a form of language modeling for automatic speech recognition. So for automatic speech recognition, it is very much important, the prediction of the word. The language model which are currently most effective, the language model which are currently most effective work on the basis of n-gram, which come under Markov chain. So n-gram is found on the basis of the current sentence. Suppose a sentence having n minus 1 words. On the basis of the n minus 1 word, we can predict the next word. The sequence of the prior n minus 1 word is used to predict the next. So trigram model use preceding two words to predict the next. And bigram model use preceding word, and unigram model uses no context at all. So bigram model assign a probability to a word based on the previous word, which that is P probability word 1 to n is thus approximated by the product of these conditional probability. P probability of the word 1 to n on the basis of the probability of conditional probability P, uh, if you want to find the probability of W K, when the probability of W K minus 1 has already happened. For example, suppose we have the following tiny corpus of utterance: good morning, good afternoon, it is very good, it is good. So these kind of sentences we can predict. In these kind of sentences we can predict word. Suppose if you have right, it is very, it means next word, the chances of the word good is very high. So this is about morphological analysis. In the next class we will understand syntactic analysis. Thank you.